hospitality
And
industry.
unfortunately, that's like almost everybody who works in this industry experiences, regardless of what it is, retail, office work, being in the military even, there is sexism in the workplace still. Whether that's, I've had baristas or trainees that come in and I've had one straight up tell me that he will not respect my authority because I'm a woman. And he thinks my decision making is out of emotion and
Wow.
not thought, that kind of thing. I had to reiterate, like, I am your boss. I have the authority to do what it is I have to do.
Greetings and thank you for tuning into RAA Talks. We're so glad to have you back with us. And if you're joining us for the first time, just a reminder, my name is Raihana, like rye bread, and I'll be your host. I'm so excited to have you join us today. I've got a great guest for you. Let me go ahead and introduce her. Joining me today is Maddie Gardner. Hey, Maddie. Maddie is a hotel, food, and beverage manager with a focus on creating welcoming, comfortable experiences for both guests and the team that she manages. While Maddie is younger than most in her position, she is passionate about taking on new challenges and going above and beyond to support those around her. Outside of work, Maddie enjoys spending time with her sister and friends, taking long drives, and discovering new coffee spots. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. I just got off it's my Friday today, so I'm looking forward to a vacation here pretty soon on my weekend. So
Nice.
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. That's so interesting, like when you work in service industry or my new favorite place, because that's where my family goes all the time. This is such a weird like vacation times, right? It's like your typical weekend, like Saturday, Sunday. You have to work when people are coming and like going out and things like that. So it's I can just imagine how that might be a little bit different for you. So how is it having a weekend that's not on like a traditional weekend day?
It's honestly it's nice. My weekends are on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and everyone's kind of quiet doing their own thing at work. While I can kind of have the first in line at the new coffee shop down the road. It's really really nice sometimes, but
Nice.
it is odd. The social life sometimes it's a little off just because everyone's waiting for Friday, and my Friday's on a Tuesday. So
Yeah.
it's a good balance, but it was a hard adjustment at first.
I see. And how long have you been doing this job?
So I've been at the Regency in Seattle for 2 years now, since 2021, and I started as a
It's the
barista.
Hyatt Regency, right?
Yes.
But in case people don't know, okay, Hyatt Regency in
Yeah, the
Seattle.
Hyatt
Got it.
Regency in Seattle. I started as a barista. I just dropped out of college, so I was looking for a job over the summer while I was figuring things out. And I started as a barista and loved it. I've been a barista since I was 15. Just kind of fell in love with coffee, and making little latte art was always been my niche. So it's really fun for me. Um,
Nice.
So we opened our hours into like until 11 p.m. Our little coffee shop was open for the hotel, and I was the first volunteer for the night shift. And I just started working, became a supervisor, and now I've been a supervisor in both the market and the restaurant for a year now.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. I mean, taking on night shift, for example. I mean, I remember my father used to do night shift at the gas station when they immigrated to this country many years ago. And it's not like the first thing that people want to do. Like mostly it's you do it because you have to. So did you find yourself in that situation like you did it because you had to, or was it something like, hey, I just want to try this experience out? How was that for you?
It was a mixture of both at first. It wasn't because I had to. I really wanted to. I wanted to show that I
Oh,
had initiative to my higher ups, and I just wanted to be out of the house as much as I could at this point. So I lived in West Seattle at the time. It was during COVID, so the commute would it took twice as long having the West Seattle Bridge being closed. So it would take me a while to get there anyway, and it just took a lot of my time out of the day to be away from home to go to work. So it became a safe place for me, even in the nighttime.
wow, that's interesting. So it was a safe space for you
It
to be
was.
away from home.
Yeah.
What made it a safe space for you at that hour of the night, like just to be working so late? And what created that safety for you?
I think it was the staff I was with for the longest time. Like you get to know all the security guards, you get to know all the regular people who work at front desk, and the customers who only come after dinner, that kind of thing. And it was a nicer environment. Whereas I've been breakfast time now, it's very chaotic, it's very quick paced, and everyone just wants to get in and out. That's what kind of kept me safer.
Before we move on to something else, I'm curious about this night shift business, because sometimes, like, when you're like a hairdresser, for example, you make really good connections with people. And I can imagine, working night shifts compared to breakfast, as you mentioned, it's very chaotic. You can hardly speak to anybody. Everyone's like,
Right.
where's my food? I got to run. I got to catch my flight because you guys are right next to the airport, right? How was night shift for you? Like, what do you miss about that was really meaningful during that time?
I miss the regulars that would come in and out of the hotel, like, for people who were at business trips or during the
Hmm.
holiday season, they would be at the hotel on Christmas or Thanksgiving, or certain parts of the year where usually you're at home or celebrating with family over the summer. So they become kind of part of your regulars, like, "Oh, how was your work day at work today? It's nice to see you again," that kind of thing. Again, it was very homey. Like, we'd all have dinner together. I would all make sure, have dessert or something like that. We're always there.
Aw, that's super nice. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like you're seeing people that you're familiar with, so it's like it's almost like you have like extended family, I guess, because you see them so often, and you know about their probably where they work and a little bit about their family if they get into that a little, because it's more like calming to create that kind of connection. Is that
Absolutely. Like
resonating
it's
with
like
you at
it's
all?
like coming home for dinner. They've been in business meetings all day, or
Yeah,
they're on a long flight, or whatever it is, and they want to have a warm meal then that when they get home, and that's what we did.
that sounds so cool. And I remember you saying in your bio that's really what you focus a lot on, like providing this nice environment for your team and your staff. I'm curious, in addition to that, being the younger leader than most in your field, as you mentioned, how has your age shaped how you see yourself, both professionally and personally?
It was all in a positive way. I'm 22, and I'm all my other coworkers in my position are well into their 30s, 40s. They've already kind of established their careers and where they're at right now. And as for me, I'm just starting out. I wanna keep accelerating. But being so young and to still have a line to learn, I don't get always the most respect sometimes. That comes with time. It's not, I can be doing the best job and doing way more than I should be, and not even being held back a little bit just because I need that, what's it called? Like maturity, business maturity. I've always been mature though. I've been told that since I was very, very little, that I've had a servant heart. I was told that at church by my parents and that kind of thing. And it resonated with me a lot. I want to help people in any circumstance. I wanted to be a police officer at one point, and now it's turned into the industry that I'm in now.
So you talk about having this service at heart, like it's at your core. Where do you think that came from? Like, because that inspired you to do what you're doing now. I'm curious, like, how did you even, like, where did that come from? And then how did that lead to, I want to be a police officer then, and like, now you switch to hotel management. Like, it's like that's a really loaded question. So let's just start with where did that service part come into? Like, how did that really
I honestly don't
capture you when growing up?
I honestly don't know. I did a lot of volunteer work as a kid. My local church down the street was right around the corner. I'm not super affiliated anymore. I'm still spiritual, but I've kind of distanced myself from the church just given all that. But
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I did a lot of volunteering. I did garage sale work for 5 to 6 hours a day when I was like 12 years old. I babysat since I was little. Anything I could do to kind of just be of service. It was helping my mom with the dishes, babysitting, taking my sister for drives, whatever it was. I've just kind of always wanted to do that. It fulfilled what a little piece of me.
That makes sense. And that's so beautiful that you said from 12 years old you started doing all of this. That's pretty young to just put yourself out there and start dealing with complaints and people with bad manners and angry people. I remember back in the day when I was in high school, I was probably what 16 at the time and working in JC Penney, one of the retail stores. Some people might not even know about it now, like the new kids
I
might not
know.
even know about that store, right? But we had people who like come in like they wore the clothes, washed it, had rust on it, and I was like, I want my money back.
Oh
This
yeah,
is rusted. I don't want this anymore. I'm like, you used it, and then
right.
they're like yelling at you, and you're like, little old mature kid, immature kid, like how do I even deal
Like,
with
I'm
this?
15. Like, what do you want me to do for you?
Yeah. Did you ever encounter anything like that? That was my
God, yeah.
situation. Anything like that at 12 years old, and how did you manage that?
I was. I remember the youngest I was 14 when I started my first management role. It was crazy. I worked at a drive-in burger place in a not so great area of town, Boss Burger, for people who are from the Berrien area. It was a really cool experience. It was right by the high school. Like after football games, everyone would go to Boss Burger, but I was the only I don't know, I was able to keep my ground a lot of the time when those things happen, so they gave me a position where I had a little bit of in chargeness. I was always a cashier, I was the supervisor, I kinda ran the shift in the front of the house. But I would have guests who were, very, very upset about the smallest thing. It could be like we were out of strawberry ice cream for the day. And
Yeah.
I've had people throw bottles at me. I've had people trying to reach in and grab stuff out of my hands, like crazy, crazy stuff.
Wow.
At the end of the day, it's my safety that comes first and my team's safety. So they can say whatever they want to do, but they want to escalate it more than it needs to. Other people usually step in.
Wow, that's crazy. And it sounds like you even encounter some of that at work today. Like, and so I'm curious, how do you create a safe and equitable environment for your team? As you just mentioned, like it's about my safety and my team. Like, how do you do that today for your team, especially for women in marginalized groups?
Absolutely. Out of day one, every new employee that I have come in, or even just a coworker that's just joined wherever I'm working at the time, I want them to know that like what happens if when you're leaving for the day. I worked night shift for 2 years, so I would tell every barista that I had, if you don't feel safe walking to your car, we have security here for a reason. They will walk you over, and if anybody gives you a hard time about that, you come to tell me because I that's not acceptable.
That's really nice.
It's a matter of just communicating like what I can do and what they have to let them know that they're safe. For
Hmm.
example, we had a transient unfortunately come into the restaurant this morning. He was clearly not all the way there. He had probably been using something at the time, but he was getting very aggressive with one of my hosts. So immediately we have security nearby. We press our call button and they come flying in. But he wanted food. He wanted to be sat down. So I put him at a table and I said I'll be right over with him. Kept an eye while security came and escorted him out. But I stayed calm. That was the biggest thing, was staying calm. If you look panic and seem panic, your team will start panicking as well.
It's a really interesting point. You know, when I first met you, I didn't think you were 22. Like, I thought you
I
were
get that a
way
lot.
past that, you know? And so for someone who is 22, talking about staying calm, and someone here about to create a mess in your restaurant, right? And you're feeling like my safety's at risk, but at the same time, I have to worry about my team. How do you do it? Like, how do you calm yourself to show the person who could potentially attack you and be aggressive with you that you are calm as well?
Hmm.
What worked for you in that moment today?
I honestly, I welcome them if they were like a regular guest. They were not all the way there, but I asked them, are they staying here? Do they have a room number? Like just as if they were a regular guest, because that's at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day what they're trying to do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not here to embarrass anybody either, but this one eventually did escalate, so I had to aggressively like, okay, come lead him away from where he was and where a lot of guests and staff were, and just get him to be relaxed for a second. But I was smiling the whole time. I was like, okay, like being calm, being trying as best we I can, because
And how?
it's happened a lot.
Sorry.
Sorry, it's happened a lot before, so I think
Yeah.
I've had the right training and experience to just know what to do.
Got it. Yeah, because you were saying like, I was smiling the whole time. I'm like, what do you tell yourself to make sure you're smiling? Like, what helped you in that moment to just make sure that I'm smiling the whole time? I'm going to make sure this person feels like they're a regular guest.
I think just keeping a sense of it's going to be okay no matter what. I'd rather have something happen to me than as bad as that sounds, than a guest or someone who I'm in charge of. Because I know nothing's going to happen to me if I know I have backup. I knew exactly where they were. I saw security in that before I even made an approach towards the person. I knew that I was going to be safe within a minute.
So it's like knowing all your options, like having your resources available to you, knowing how to access them, knowing in how much time they're going to show up. And once you're like secure, it's like you're like a flight attendant on the plane, like making sure
You
whoever
have
is
your
an
mask
adult,
on before
you
someone.
have your mask on first before you put the child's mask on. So it sounds
Exactly.
like that's the mentality that you
Yeah,
have. So
exactly.
you're keeping yourself safe before you can even keep your other team safe. Am I hearing all that right?
Absolutely. You summed it up. Like, that's a great example. Absolutely.
Oh, that is so cool. You know what? I want to go back to this age thing though, right? Because you're talking to me like you're a grown woman, and you're saying, yeah, I'm 22. I have a hard time believing that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I get that a lot. I
So
still get.
I'm curious. So when you meet people and they don't believe what your age really is, I'm curious. What's a moment when someone underestimated you because of your age, right? Like maybe they're making assumptions about what your age was because how you like when you show up in person, you don't look your age. You look much more mature than what you are. The moment you start talking, let's say they start making some assumptions, okay? What's a moment where someone underestimated you because of your age once they knew about it? And how did you respond?
I think it was when I transitioned to my new team down in Indari. I have the name of the restaurant. I didn't know a lot of the crew very well yet, so I didn't, go out and tell like "Hey, everyone, I'm 22 years old. Heads up." Eventually, everyone just kind of found out, and it took a while for them to kind of realize that I do have a sense of authority rather than like, "Oh, ha, you're my child's age," kind of looked like they didn't believe me. So it kind of put a little bit of a gap between us, but eventually they came around.
That's interesting because you said that there are some of the people on your team who might have even thought of you as like, oh, you're my child's age. How did that make you feel? And how did you respond to that? Like to just command the authority even when they weren't ready to openly give that to you? Because it wasn't natural for them.
Not at all. And it's still something I'm working on. It's probably one of my biggest challenges right now is asserting my authority and being a boss and not just their friend or the easy, nice one to come to. I want to be able to get the same respect as my other managers do, even though I'm not like, I haven't been there as long as the other ones have. So it takes a while to build that trust, but I feel like I've done my job to prove that I am worthy of it, I guess.
And what do you feel you've done to kind of command that respect and trust that you deserve? Because age is just a number at the end of the
It's
day.
just a number.
Yeah.
The first thing I did was let them know that I was there for them. My goal when I came down to them from the market to the restaurant was I'm here to be the bridge between the team and management, the team and culinary. I'm here to listen to what you guys have to say and communicate that to my higher ups, and then the same way around. And I think that was the first time that they've heard that. And I asked them for what's been the biggest issues around here and what can I do right now to help. I think the first thing was we don't have any staples. We've been needing staples for so long, we haven't had any. So I went down the office and I grabbed some for them, just to kind of show them that I'm here to do those things regardless. But I think that's what kind of helped.
You know, that just, what you just said just made me feel what kind of leader you are. Like you're not the type of person. Oh, wait a second. Your recording has stopped. Maddie's recording has stopped.
Oh, man, I'm so sorry about that.
Okay, you had an incoming call. Okay. That's okay. That's all right. Let me make sure
Do not disturb.
it's continuing. Okay. Okay. It looks
Sorry.
like it's still going. Okay. I'll just cut this piece. Okay. Because it's telling me it stopped. So I'm just wondering, okay, did it actually stop? Because it's showing recording here and then, okay. All right, cool.
Sorry about that.
We'll make it work. Okay. So that's all right. That's all right.
What I just said.
Yeah. What you just said just showed me what kind of leader you are. And you're the type of person who's like, hey, I'm here for you. You got problems, you tell me what I can do to help you solve them. Tell me what I can do to make it work. And even if that means I got to go do some administrative stuff and make sure you got staples. As your manager, I'll do that. Like, I don't hear many leaders that are like that right now. You know, like leaders in corporate world that are sitting in their desk in the nice office. Like some of those leaders, if you're working in like a manufacturing company, they're not afraid to come down to the shop floor and see, what are you doing? How can I help you? How can I make this a better experience for you? Not all people do that. And I think you're one of those people in the hospitality industry who demonstrates, hey, I'm a manager, but that doesn't mean I can't come down to your level and work alongside you to really understand what are your problems so that we
I
can
think the
make it a
thing
better
I hold
experience for
most dear
everyone.
is I started as a barista. Going on 3 years ago, I started as the bottom barista. I was late all the time, almost fired a few times for being late to work. West Seattle was a nightmare, just point blank period. But it was rough. And I started from there, and now I'm here. So I know what it's like to be on both sides.
That's beautiful. That just reminded me of an experience I had when I was growing up. I graduated college. The first job I got was a hostess at Tony Roma's restaurant, which like doesn't exist anymore. They went bankrupt, I think, after some years. And it's funny because it's like when you work those jobs, like at the lowest level, like you bussing tables or you're a hostess, you're not even a server. Like that's like the king of the jobs when you're in restaurants, right? you really see things differently. You're like understand what customers want when they're coming in, like you're making sure they're happy, they're gonna get their menu. You start talking through like some things that they can try. You ask them whether they're celebrating, and you're even cleaning the bathrooms. So when you go to a bathroom now and you're not at
Right.
work, you're like, let me clean this up, let me make
Exactly.
sure there's no water around the sink, let me pick up these paper towels from the floor, because you
Oh my, I
feel the
stack plates. Well,
pain.
anytime I go out to a restaurant, I'm always like stacking plates for 'em, making sure I'm separating. I'm like, you take as much time as you need, that kind of thing. You know, like, don't you worry about it. I will be here.
Totally. Like those types of roles, I feel like I always tell people I coach, no matter what experience you have, it's all valuable. Even if somebody that tells you, like your future employer, like, well, why you put this on your resume? It doesn't even matter. Every experience that you have has value to add, and you just demonstrated that. Like you, from working as a barista and volunteering, all of those skills you learned help you to be the leader that you are today, regardless of your age. Hello, holla at your girl.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. But I've had like so many good leaders.
Yeah, yeah. That's who you Maddie is. Maddie is this wonderful leader, and you're just defying all the principles of you can't do this because you're too young. So many people say
It's
that,
like,
and you just defy that. You
watch me
just
do it.
broke that into pieces because yeah, that's right. Watch Maddie do it because she's rocking it right now. So, anyways, we're done with the age topic. Let's move on to something else, a little bit more interesting. In hospitality, we got a lot of sexism going on. I'm curious, Maddie, where appearances and perceptions often play a role. Have you encountered subtle or overt sexism? And how did you navigate that in hospitality
And
industry?
unfortunately, that's like almost everybody who works in this industry experiences, regardless of what it is, retail, office work, being in the military, even. There is sexism in the workplace still. Whether that's, I've had cook baristas or trainees that have come in and I've had one straight up tell me that he will not respect my authority because I'm a woman. And he thinks my decision making is out of emotion
Wow.
and not thought, that kind of thing. I had to reiterate, like, I am your boss. I have the authority to do what it is I have to do. I told his superior about it, and he came and apologized, that kind of thing. But it's maintaining a level of respect for yourself before you lash out or react to that kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, that's their problem. They want to look at me that way. That's on them. It's not on me.
Yeah, no, totally. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion and all. And I think you handle it from what you described, you handle it very respectively without even demeaning the person or yourself in the process. I'm wondering, once you took that up to your higher ups, how did that change the dynamics of you working with this barista? Because you're the manager for this person and they feel this way about you and your leadership. How did
I
that
think
change the dynamics, if at all?
how I handled it helps maintain the relationship, because instead of being, retaliating or being petty or just, dismissive of the person, I embraced them with kindness. I was just like, look, I understand you had a heated moment, but it's okay. Let's just move on. I immediately forgave them, but I told them, like, if that happens again, it's going to be a different issue. Never again.
Did it ever happen again for you with the same person? What do you think made them
I think they
not bring
they
it up
saw the
again?
maturity that not, maturity is not the best word. The responsibility I took on of taking it at, understanding where he was coming from and how he was feeling, rather than just taking it as like I'm a victim in sexism, which it is.
And how did you do that? Because when you're experiencing it as a woman, like it's very easy to play the victim card. It's very easy to just focus on you hurt me. You owe me something here. I don't need to care about your feelings and what you're going through and what made you say it in the first place. I'm curious what was going on in your head that made you consider his perspective, and what did you say to him when you were considering his perspective to kind of just tone
I
down the
think it was a matter
situation a
of,
bit?
I know who I was. I know who I am as a person and how I lead a team. I'm not one to back down from confrontation. If there was an issue, I made sure to pull him to a side and sit him down and let's talk about it. Um, I asked him what could have been done differently, what was the main issue here, what was the main point, because a lot of tensions were risen at the time, but now that we're calm, let's talk about it. And he was able to communicate that thing. He's like, I understand. I lashed out. I wasn't meant. It didn't come out the way I wanted it to. That kind of thing. And we came to an understanding. But I did have to, say I do deserve a level of respect because I am your boss. and he took that very, very well. Can you repeat the main point of the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Like, so you were able to tone down the situation and you were respectful of what he might be feeling and why those thoughts arose in the first place. I'm just wondering, how did you even come to that point where you could acknowledge his feelings versus acknowledging and really playing the victim card because you were the one affected by this sexism? This
I was able to handle it just because and then again, I knew it was just his opinion. It was how he was feeling in that way. I knew that had nothing to do with me. It was it was more of like I was worried about his mindset because I know that if he was in his right mind at that time, he would have never said that to me because that's not how I would take things, I guess.
You know what? As you just said that, it just showed me that you have such a strong sense of who you are that no outsider, no external factor is going to tell you any different. Like I can just hear it and see it from what you're not see it from what you're saying. I can hear it from what you're saying and from your body language. I can see it, right? That you're so confident in this sense of I know who I am. I know my capabilities. I know my strengths. I know where I can improve a little bit. And I'm not going to let
Yep.
anybody toy with that. Like, I don't care who you are, what's your gender, what's your age, what's your title. It's not going to affect me. But if you
Absolutely.
got a problem, let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what
I
I'm
hate
hearing. How accurate was that?
keeping things behind closed doors and just having this like unspoken
Yeah.
petty resentment towards each other. There's no point. If there's an issue, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a great conversation. It can just
Yeah, totally. I love that. That's such a great like advice to just take away with that no matter what happens, if someone was discriminating against you, if someone was sexist towards you, someone just spit on your face, don't take it so personally, which is hard not to do, but try to figure out what's going on for that person. Like you just mentioned the guy who made the sexist comment was like, I don't know what happened. I lashed out. Things were just not going well. So many times people have so many things going on. Like they're worried about their bills, how they're going to pay their
something.
parents' medication bills
Absolutely.
or treatment bills. They just had a car accident and or they're late and they're trying to get their kids to school. Like so many things are going on in the life of people that cause them to lash out that way. But I think as a victim, when you're the one at the receiving end of those comments and that discrimination and so forth, it's almost like you feel like it's justified for you to feel that way and it's justified for you to react however you want. But you just showed that
Yeah,
there's another option here. There's another opportunity that you can choose. You don't just have to choose the victim card. You can choose the let's
absolutely.
figure
And you
out
can
what's
choose your
going on
reaction as
card.
well. You don't have to react as, lashing out or
Yeah.
hurt or, like maybe I am this way, maybe I am weaker than I think I am. You can react
Yeah.
as any way you like.
Yeah.
You can laugh at it if you'd like to.
Absolutely. And I think in the workplace, right, it's so easy to say, let's sit down, let's have a conversation about this. Let's talk it out. Let's figure out what is actually going on here behind this comment that you made. I'm curious beyond the workplace though, when you don't have that setting where they're kind of obligated to sit down with you. You're the
Yeah.
manager, he's a direct report, right? How has being a woman shaped your experiences navigating relationships, trust, or independence?
Big question. I think there's so much that goes into it. I think knowing that I can do it. I am one woman. I can get through being just, the sex discrimination, catcalling, that kind of thing, walking down the street, feeling demeaning, just kind of feeling unsafe in some environments. But at the end of the day, the best way to say it is like, I know I'm going to be okay. I'm fully okay.
Does that still happen to you? Like catcalling and all and how does that make you feel when you're walking down the street, like even
It's
outside of the
annoying,
workplace and all?
honestly. That's the best way I can put it. I don't feel attacked. I don't feel like I'm unsafe when those things happen. It's just more like, I'm just standing here. I'm not doing anything. I'm not trying to show these things off. It's just I'm getting the attention that I'm not asking for. And even I have friends notice me and they're like, Maddie, you have pretty privilege. Like people act so differently around you and that kind of thing. And I'm a pretty girl. Everyone, I'm humble. Thank you for
I was gonna ask you, did you say
pretty privilege.
you have pretty
It is a
privilege?
thing.
That's
And
a
like
nice
I don't
statement
want to
right
take, I'm very humble. Thank you to my mom and for my parents for giving me this, but yeah, it happens, and it's hard. Anybody who gets talked to like that, like looked down upon or called out of just their appearance alone, it sucks. It's not fun. I don't want to be just another pretty face. I want to be known for what's in here in my brain.
I want to just take a minute to dive into that a little bit, if you're okay, about this pretty privilege concept, because some women might even feel like, oh, I'm not pretty enough, so I got to put a whole lot of makeup on, do this and that to my hair, straighten it up, curl it up, get a perm, the whole works.
Yeah,
Get some Botox in my lips and my cheeks so it looks better. How does that affect you internally when people play to this pretty
it's
privilege
such a
card when they see you? Because that's the first thing they see. They see you as Maddie externally. They don't know what's up in here. They don't know what's in your heart and everything, right? So, how does that affect you when people encounter you for the first time and the first thing that comes to mind, wow, this is
it's
such a beautiful girl?
Of course, I take it depending on the situation, who it is. It can be a compliment sometimes, but a lot of the time it's, I wish I was known for something else. I wish you hadn't known me for how I treated somebody or how the work I put in affected your team or whatever it was. And outside of work, the rumors that can be spread about, so and so got this done, or did you see so and so's new lips? That kind of thing. It's annoying. It's just static. I'm sick of the first thing that people talk about is how someone looks. As cliche as that sounds, it took many, many, many years for me to finally feel confident in my appearance. And I know so many young girls feel that same way about that. And just to have it being kind of taken away and give you an icky feeling when somebody got asked out and you say no many, many times and it just never stops. You just kind of feel lost, just lost
Like you said, you feel lost.
stuck.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to me more about that. Why do you
Lost
feel
wasn't the right
lost
word.
and stuck?
I can get out of those situations, but just kind of like I wish I'm not. That's not the best way either. What am I doing that's making it seem like it's okay to approach me? Am I smiling too much?
Mm.
Am I wearing the right clothes? Like I'm almost thinking it's my fault, but at the end of the day, it's not. So it's getting out of that mindset. I think is what's struggling.
If you're, and I noticed there's some emotions going on, so I just
Okay,
want to do a quick check. How
my
are you
throat's
doing
a
with
little dry.
continuing
That's
forward
my
on this
thing.
topic? That's no, okay, no, totally okay. Just want to do a quick check and respect you in that sense, because this is a tough topic, especially when you talk about body image and self acceptance and identity. And I'm wondering how, like you mentioned, it took you a while to accept yourself for the way you look. What do you mean by that? And why did it take you a while to accept yourself?
Unfortunately, like so many girls and my generation and Gen Z who grew up with the internet for the first time and social media, we were kind of trained to immediately start comparing ourselves to our classmates, to friends, to people we see online, to what the trending beauty standard is at the time. Fashion, certain clothes that look good on some bodies and might make other people feel a little less comfortable. I fell right into that loop. I had Instagram. I would see the eating disorders that were almost glorified on the internet back in Tumblr days and early Instagram, that kind of thing, where it was um, like you were praised if you had these things and you were doing them successfully, as they would say. So in like middle school, it was almost trendy to be anorexic and like brag about how like, oh, I haven't eaten in 2 days, and then you go do basketball practice and you feel terrible after because you don't have any nutrients in your body. But at the same time, like you're trying to hide it from your family and your parents, so it was just a constant battle in your head. I was an athlete my entire life, and I still am. And knowing that, my parents were like, "Maddie, you have to eat." So that they would sit me down at the dinner table every day, and we would have dinner. And eventually, it became I would wrap Saran wrap around my stomach and my arms, so it would look smaller. And I was wearing a uniform, so you could obviously hear like Saran wrap going in there, but that was what was fed to me on the internet. So it took a very, very long time to kind of come into myself again. I know that was a lot heavy.
That's hard. Like I was just trying to this sound really weird. I wasn't trying to visualize what you're doing with that saran wrap, but I was trying to visualize what it would feel like to have saran wrap wrapped around you and be that young and forced into that kind of thinking. Like I need to do this. I mean, when we were in middle school, people be stuffing tissues and their
Right. Yeah.
Kleenex.
Right.
Like
Stuff to bro.
boxes of Kleenex
Yeah.
tissues.
Absolutely.
And kids are so silly, but
Yeah.
I haven't heard about saran wrap.
It was crazy at the time. I
That's
didn't know anybody
crazy.
who was doing it either. I was so desperate to like I think I put them around my thighs too, to have that thigh gap that was so heavily like wanted for every girl at that time. And I played all these sports, and I saw the athletes who were physically very built as a young girl, and I was like, I'm not as good as an athlete because I don't look like them. And that would get in my head, and I would try and work harder.
So it sounds like you had this battle going on between I don't look like these skinny anorexic girls, and I don't look built and muscular like these athletes. I'm kind of in the middle. So did you play both sides? Like, did you try to like beef up while at some point, or did you just kind of stick to like I'm gonna just do this
It was more
anorexic
just
thing and
sticking
hopefully it's
to,
gonna
I want to
work?
be as small as I can, get skinny, get skinny, get skinny. That's all I wanted to do. And I was a big girl at the time. I loved
Oh,
cooking. I still love cooking. I love sugar. I've always had a big sweet tooth. Unfortunately, my parents were not the best at navigating that at the time. My dad was especially not great. He would always call me like, "Well, Maddie, you're a big girl." He would compare me to my sister, who's a lot smaller than I am, and that was always. I think that's what hurt the most, was like my own family was acknowledging that I was different or bigger.
that's really hard. You know, when you talk about what we talk about in coaching is relationships are so important. And there's a principle in psychology. This might you tell me how much you know about this. There's a guy called Maslow,
Yeah.
and he created, a little bit about that. He has
Yes.
this hierarchy of
Yes.
needs in psychology. That sound familiar? Okay. So at the very bottom, it's like trust,
Mhm.
love, and safety. I think that's right. Or love is like the second one after that. Like trust, love, and like safety is around there, like those three. And you get the maximum of that in your house, right? Because your parents brought you up. They're the you don't know anything when you're just born. Like so you're learning everything from your parents and you trust your mother like no one other
Absolutely.
because you came from her. Next person's your dad, your siblings. And when you got those folks that are supposed to be your trusting barrier
Mhm.
to protect you from the outside world, telling you what the outside world is telling
It
you,
breaks that barrier.
then it's like it breaks that barrier. Yeah. And so how did that affect you
I
and what
wish
did
I
you
would
do
have
about
reacted
it?
better. I mean, it took years, like well into when I was in college, to get to the point where I didn't feel like I needed to restrict or overdo anything. I was able to find a balance that was okay. Like I would see my mom go on these fad diets all the time growing up. I distinctly remember one time I brought her, like, I think a treat or something I had made from school, and I remember she took a bite of it. I turned around to go do it in the room, and when I came back, she was like spitting it out into the trash. And I knew she was on this diet. And I was like, "Oh, like did you not like it?" And she was like, "No, it was great." And I'm like, "Okay." And I was just kind of confused, and then it clicked in my head what she was doing, and I never really talked about that with her. I would bring it up later on about her dieting and how it affected me, but yeah, it took a really, really long time. I think being in sports also helped eventually down the line, and I was I needed fuel, especially when I got into high school. I was playing 4 sports throughout the year, so I needed energy. I needed to go to the gym. I learned about nutrition and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Again, at the time though, I had a not
Yeah.
so great curriculum with health. They had a calorie track for an assignment for like a month, our first week of school, my freshman year. So post anorexic trend, we were having to track our own calories every single day, and we would all present them at the end of the month. And it was almost like a competition who ate the least. And it was just really
Wow.
not good.
Oh my God. That's so it sounds like you went from plastic wrap in middle school, tying your legs and your stomach to just show like you have like a smaller waist, you got thinner legs, you got the gap between, and then you go into this anorexia, like not eating, and that carried on
The
into
anorexia
college.
part eventually kind of fizzled out just because I was constantly around food, and
Hmm.
high school came around, so it was the cool thing, like go out to eat with your friends and that kind of thing. So eventually that kind of stigma
I
went
see.
away. And then
Okay.
the trend of, the BBL trend came around, and the BBL trend with Kim
What was that?
Kardashian, the very like Coke bottle looking like
What is that?
Curvy became the more trend as I came into high school.
I just dated myself.
I know I sound like a Gen Z like internet baby over here. I know. It was like the curvy trend, like having a big bust, a
Yeah.
small waist, like physically not possible really without plastic surgery. The main standard. I
Hmm.
kind of started. I was blessed with
Hmm.
some girls, but my mom. Thank you so much. So I started to embrace the qualities that I tried to have when trying to conceal the other ones that I was insecure about.
Mm-hmm.
So that trend kind of turned into stress, started to rise in high school, and I started having my own money. I had a job. I was able to go to the store and buy my own food. My parents were the trendy way is almond parents is trying to say that is they were very strict with their food. We ate like white fish, vegetable, and rice for months on end. That was our dinner every single day. And my mom would pack my lunch
Yeah.
in middle school, and then eventually, high school came around. She stopped doing that, so I was eating a lot of not so great food. And then high school came around. I ended up gaining a lot of weight. I was in some pretty toxic relationships in high school, and not my best intro into my love life. Let's save that for another topic. But we'll put in that. We'll come
Bookmark
back
on
to
that
that.
one. Come back to
I
me
was also
later.
working in the food industry. I worked at a burger place, so I was eating a lot, and eventually it turned
Mm-hmm.
into a bulimia type
Yeah.
situation, and that's yeah,
That's what the vomiting episodes, right? Like getting
that's kind
yourself to
of
vomit
the
after eating
trendy
something.
pipeline. Is if you
Okay.
don't succeed in anorexia, you become bulimic, and that's just kind of the pipeline, unfortunately. I ended up going to treatment facility, and it did a lot of help for me during that time. That was the post anorexic, then the bulimia came around, and
Was that around
I
high
was in
school to college, or was that in
high
college? Where are we at? High school, high school bulimia, and going to treatment for that. What part were you just starting off in high school, or were you
it
kind
was
of at
like
the tail
the
end of it?
midst of it, like in the middle. I was kind of I got caught
Okay.
by my mom.
Okay.
I did a really good job of hiding it from teachers and friends and my family as best I could, but my mom started to notice sounds from the bathroom, and I got caught. And she did some research. I think she talked to some of the moms in her group, and I eventually went to some therapy.
That sounds really hard. Just all these. We first started off like you're the servant person. You have so much love for the people, but then it sounded like you didn't have much love for yourself. And it was almost like you were at war with yourself, and you put your body through so much torture, like suffocating it with the plastic wrap and then vomiting. I hate vomiting. Pregnant women will know you vomit so much the first trimester, and it's and the crackers and
God,
black
yeah,
pasta. None of that. And
yeah,
you voluntarily did this? How did
but yeah,
you that acid
all
feeling?
the time.
Aftertaste. How did
It's
you do
so bad. I had so much gum just stuffed into my pockets at all times. All times. No matter what it was.
What
It was
type
like,
of mint?
it was,
Some big
do you remember back in the day they had the extra gum, I think it was called, or Stride? It was like in the
Yeah.
black container, they had an S on it. They discontinued
Stride,
that.
yeah, the blue,
Yeah,
the
Stride.
metallic blue and metallic green. That's
Exactly.
expensive gum.
Yeah. I was like, it's gotta work the best, so I got that one. But they
Nice.
discontinued that also. Come on, Stride.
Wow. All the good stuff that happened back in the day, they just discontinue it. They don't want these new kids trying them out. I'm just kidding, new kids. I'm just
But
kidding.
when I would run out of gum, I was like a nightmare. I would like find the nearest water fountain to like try and yeah, it was
Whoa.
I don't know.
So
I
how
felt
long did that
disgusting every time.
last?
It was almost 2 years I was doing that. 2 years.
365 days in a year. 2 years?
2 years. It
Every
did,
single day, 2 years?
but that was in the time where I was like I would binge and I was binge. I would binge. I would feel so gross, and I would throw it all up, and then I would like the next day I would like oh okay I'm not gonna eat today, and then
Yeah.
it would be that kind of thing.
Oh my God. And so then what happened after that? You went to treatment after 2 years, or was in that treatment was in that 2 year period?
It was in that 2 year period.
Okay.
It would flare ups, I would call them, would come
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And eventually I got really into club sports. My mom and I were blessed enough to try out for a club softball team. And I met a ton of girls who were thankfully like I was the only white girl on the team. And it was such a great community to be in. They were all curvy bodies with moms who didn't care and they loved, they flaunted it like they had it. And it was great to be around that environment where, they
Yeah.
weren't skinny. They didn't care about what they looked like, but they were still so like confident in who they were. And
Yeah.
it taught me so much. I was so thankful to be on that.
A new
So,
mantra for you.
okay. All right.
Instead of pretty privilege, you're going to be curvy confident.
Love it. Love it. Curvy
What's
confident.
that? Curvy confident. There you go, mama.
Love it. There we go.
Yeah.
And get it on a pillow. Yeah. Sounds good to me.
There was another talk we had. We were just throwing statements out there, and she's like, we got to make some stickers.
Yeah, for sure. Post them
Now we
everywhere.
got pillows. Maddie got pillows. That other girl I was
Exactly.
talking to got stickers making, t-shirts.
You're gonna see Curvy confident in the lobby on the pillows.
Yeah,
Trust.
there you go. There you go. Make sure
Mhm.
I get some of those in there too for the
Exactly.
women who are not
Exactly.
feeling as confident with their curves because they don't meet the standard beauty image. Hello.
Exactly. Hello. Love it.
You
And
know,
eventually, like,
go ahead.
sorry,
Sorry.
around that time, the
Yeah.
internet, the body positivity movement started
Yeah.
becoming a more trendy
Yeah.
thing. Ashley Graham was a curve model. She was on like the first one on Sports Illustrated as this powerful curvy woman. And I was like I kind of look like that. Like not really, but like
Yeah.
there's people who look like me who are getting so much praise for that, and it's
Yeah.
not what I'm looking for, but she's accepted, and that felt really nice to see on it.
Yeah, that's so funny because it's like you started off feeling really insecure because the internet and the media affected you a lot. And then now it's like as time progressed, you know, the internet and media didn't lose its influence on you, right? Because it's just
It
the
just
internet
changed.
and media changed. So then you're like, okay, I can just stop thinking about being skinny and anorectic. I can start appreciating how I look because how I look just so happens to match what the internet and media is promoting. How
Exactly.
did you, how, like, when you're talking about where you're at now, how much does the internet and media affect you and how you choose to show up now?
I think now at the point where the internet has come, it's I'm not going online looking at women who I want to look like. It's more
Yeah.
of, I'm looking at the nearest coffee shop online or clothing trends or the political movements that are going on or whatever it is. I'm not really looking for that thing anymore. The whole idea of let's all focus on how girls' bodies looks and being all the YouTube being, what I eat in a day and how to lose 5 pounds in a week, that kind of thing. All that media has kind of chill out. So now when I'm on the media and how it affects me, it's more of how do I fit in and how do I make a difference?
And so, how does Maddie fit in and make a difference without letting media influence it?
I think just being the person that I am and no, giving the knowledge that I've learned growing up and being a young adult and a young woman. I think sharing that with I've been a mentor since I was in middle school, sharing how I was, how to navigate friendships and drama and that kind of thing. As long as I continue to do that, I'm gonna make a difference and I'm gonna feel right at home. I'm gonna feel
There
at
you
place.
go, Servant Maddie.
Yeah, exactly.
Servant Maddie, Curvy confidence. There you go.
Very confident. There
There
we
you
go.
go. Serving up that confidence. All right, there we go.
Love it.
Maddie, there was one more thing I wanted to touch on. I'm going to go back a little bit before we close up because I know we're already at our end of our time together almost.
Oh wow.
You talked about, your mom caught you when you were throwing up. And then before that, you talked about how you would make things, your mom spit it out because she was on a diet. She didn't know how it was affecting you, but I can just imagine her spitting it out. Young Maddie is feeling, mom doesn't like what I made, or she doesn't appreciate what I made. And you're probably feeling bad about it. And then you're hiding the plastic wrap. When mom found out, you didn't trust them, obviously, to tell them about everything that you were doing, right, to your body and how you
Absolutely.
felt about your body. But when she found out, how did that relationship of trust change at that point? If it changed at all?
It changed at a time where she kind of got that there was a bigger issue going on. It wasn't just like Maddie's just sick for the day. I broke down and I just cried to her about what's been going on. And she was able to listen. And she wasn't always the best at giving me advice, like verbal advice, but she was there for support. And she would say, like, it's not healthy. We want to take care of you, that kind of thing. Not scolding me, but just saying, like, it needs to stop.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so it's almost like that whole situation where mom caught you. It was not only like, oh my God, I need to do things to hide more so I don't get caught again, but it was more of, let's rebuild this relationship where the trust was broken so that
Mhm.
we can have something stronger where I can actually communicate. Is that sounding like what happened during that time?
Yeah, I wish I could say it got stronger at the time. I've always been like very much protective of my mom and of my sibling, and so I would worry about how she was feeling because I know she, I've caught her before too, spitting out that thing that I made. I know that she had her own issues with that, so it was always kind of a taboo subject to talk about. But when she caught me going little bit to the point where it's unsafe, it opened up of let's get her some help rather than what she could do to help me.
So let's say mom is listening right now. What's your message for mom all these years later?
Just thank you. And I think that you were so beautiful and such a smart woman that made me to who I am now. And I hope that she doesn't lose that, how she is acting now. And I see that she's happy. I want her to remember who she is.
It's wonderful. Mom, if you're listening, when you're listening, know that Maddie really respects you a lot and she learned a lot from you. And she's the woman who she is today because of your support and your love. So thank you, Mrs.
Thank
Gardner, for that. Thank you, Mom. All right. Now, Maddie, as we wrap up here, looking back on your journey and everything you faced, being a servant, having volunteering, working from a very young age at 12 years old, going through all this changes with accepting your body, trying to find how do you belong in this world. And now you're here now as this manager trying to encourage and lead other people. What are you most grateful for?
Oh man, there's so much to be grateful for. I think the people who have been here for me along the way, supportive, especially the women in my life. I've always struggled to have great female friendships, but the mentorship that I've received over the years it's the most grateful thing I could do.
That's wonderful. And when did you start having mentors? I'm curious.
I think my first coaches growing up, my sport coaches, whoever it was, I would look to how they presented themselves and try and replicate that.
Oh, so not like a formal mentorship, but it was like you had like role models to look up to and kind of emulate who you want to be and how you're going to present yourself and being
Absolutely.
very involved. Am I hearing that right? Okay.
Yeah. And
That
then
makes
I
sense.
became a mentor myself
Yeah,
from those experiences.
totally. It's funny because I didn't have mentors growing up either. I actually didn't have my first mentor till like I was in an MBA program in my like I don't even know how old I was, but that was back in like 2018, 2019, and that's really long ago. Um, it's funny because unless someone tells you about it, you don't know about it until you realize, oh, I was supposed to get that. That was a thing. Okay, but then that one person who was talking about the stickers. My God, I can't even talk. Talking about the stickers, she was saying, if you didn't receive, become, and that's what you just did. You did not receive. I didn't receive for sure, but we become what we
Indeed.
need, what we become what we needed when we were growing up for those who are growing up right now. And you just proved that right there. Thank you so much for that. One last thing for you, Maddie.
Yeah.
What's one piece of wisdom you would share with listeners today who might be suffering with body image, feeling like they don't have that pretty privilege card and not confident in themselves? What advice would you give to women struggling with that, even anorexia, bulimia, and all?
I would say in the cheesiest way I can, the grass is green on the other side, meaning the you that you want to be is going to be so much happier in the body that they were given. And as long as you know who you are and that confidence is coming from within and you show people that, you are the most beautiful soul. And that's going to come out and show people.
Thank you so much for that, Maddie. That's beautiful. Very beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our time together. And, before you go, even though we're sad to see you go, you better come back and subscribe to this podcast. Give us a follow. Give me a follow on LinkedIn. Give Maddie a follow on Instagram and TikTok, and me Instagram, YouTube as well. If you have any other requests for future speakers or topics you'd like to hear, you can send me an email at Raihana@rawcoaching.com. I'll drop that in the show notes for you. That's the end of our time together. We'll see you next time.